Information fueled.
Opinion driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
We talk news.
506, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. How are you Wednesday? It is March 19th of 2025. Boy, Joan, I don't even know where to start.
There is just so much today. The embarrassment of riches.
Yes, we've got the rescued astronauts. We've got the whole conversation, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. We, of course, have deportation gate that continues to be talked about as well. So there is just a lot, and that is just scratching the surface. Oh, we've got the document dump as well.
Yeah,
with
JFK files. Mm-hmm.
So I think what we're going to do is at 35. I don't know if you have any firepower, Joan, on the document dump. If you do, don't talk about it now. We're going to save it all for 35. But there's a lot to talk about with the document dump. So we'll discuss that again at 35 here at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's start with the call between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, shall we? Now, this was a highly anticipated call, of course, and everybody wanted to know if this would lead to a 30-day ceasefire. Shocker, it did not. As a matter of fact, fighting does continue this morning in Ukraine with both sides lobbing bombs. And so we're going to get into all of that. But, you know, President Trump and the call with Vladimir Putin, Trump says it went well. Other people say it did not go well because they did not come back with a specific 30-day ceasefire. But they say, Trump says, that there was an agreement on a ceasefire on energy and infrastructure. That is what Vladimir Putin supposedly agreed to. He did not, again, agree to that 30-day ceasefire. But it does sound like he is willing, of course, if you read into this, that everybody's okay killing people, but don't damage buildings. I mean, that's very cynically what I came away with. But Donald Trump says that clearly Russia does have the upper hand right now. This is what the president said when he was speaking to Laura Ingraham following the call.
You have a lot of guns pointing at each other, and a ceasefire without going a little bit further would have been tough. Russia has the advantage, as you know. They have encircled about 2,500 soldiers. They are nicely encircled, and that's not good. And we want to get it over with. Look, we're doing this. There are no Americans involved. There could be if you end up in World War III over this, which is so ridiculous. But, you know, strange things happen. And I think we had a great call. It lasted almost 2 hours. Talked about a lot of things and toward getting it to peace. And we talked about other things also.
One of the things that I took away from that soundbite was Donald Trump saying no American troops right now, but could be if this whole thing ends up in World War III. So Vladimir Putin, in my opinion, does have the upper hand. I've been talking about this, I mean, for years now, obviously. But one of the things that Donald Trump said was that Ukraine was surrounded by Russia, about 2,500 or so Ukrainian soldiers surrounded by Vladimir Putin's troops. Now, Zelensky says, not true, fake news. I don't know. But here's the deal. Vladimir Putin has a lot more bodies to throw at this thing than Zelensky does. And by the way, you do have Europe, you know, the upper crust of European society are saying that, oh, these talks are a waste of time. These talks were a flop. The Germans are saying the talks were a flop. But to me, if any progress was made, then that is a good thing, is it not? But you knew that these folks who have had nothing to say, no help whatsoever in resolving this conflict, you know that they're going to say, oh, these were a disaster. These were a flop, because they want these discussions between Trump and Putin to be a flop. You know why? Because they haven't done anything. And they look like number one, they're a bunch of warmongers. Number two is that they look like they want this conflict to continue because they haven't done anything to stop it. So at the very least, and I don't believe that these talks were a flop at all, but at the very least, Donald Trump is trying. And he's done a heck of a lot more than Zelensky's done to stop this thing, or certainly Joe Biden did to stop this thing, or the entire European Union and NATO. No one has done more to try to stop this conflict than Donald Trump, that has cost millions of lives and billions of dollars. Now, there were reports, because there's a lot of reports out there on what was discussed in this meeting. There were reports that one thing that Vladimir Putin demanded, he had to have, was that the United States stop providing aid to Ukraine. Donald Trump says that's fake news.
No, he didn't. We didn't talk about aid, actually. We didn't talk about aid at all. We talked about a lot of things, but aid was never discussed.
Well, the fighting now has continued overnight with both sides on the attack. The Ukrainians, of course, accusing the Russians of going after the energy sectors. Russia disagrees. Who really knows what the truth is? You really don't. I mean, you can have the Ukrainians making these accusations. You can have Russia make accusations as well. One thing is for certain is that the fighting does continue. Zelensky says that Putin just isn't ready for a peace deal. He actually made that comment just a couple of hours ago. One question asked, this is again Laura Ingraham on with Donald Trump. One question was asked, and it's a legit question, by the way. People are saying that Laura Ingraham was combative. I don't believe that she was combative at all. But one question was asked, how can we trust Vladimir Putin, especially when it comes to China and their relationship with Xi Jinping? Because let's face it, the last thing we want, and this is what's happening, is a more solidified relationship between Russia and China. Of course, you've got Iran there as well. And so it does seem to me, listen to the soundbite, because it does seem to me that Donald Trump is working multiple angles, as he often does.
Well, look, we have our own discussions with President Xi of China, and he wants to get along also, and he's looking to get along, and we're looking to get along with him. And we will. We have a problem of trade where we have a very big imbalance with China. With Russia, we don't have that much trade, and they'd like to, and we'd like to also. They have some very valuable things for us, including very big forms of rare earth. They have a lot of earth. You know, they have a big chunk of real estate, the biggest in the world for a country by far. And on that, they have things that we could use, frankly, and that other people could use. I think that President Xi would like to get along, and I think Russia wants to get along with the United States. I also think we're a much different country than we were just a few months ago. We're a country that's now respected. We were not respected. We were being laughed at.
All right, so it sounds like, yes, Donald Trump is working multiple angles. Now, if you listen to what the president said, he's working not only on a ceasefire, but it also sounds like he's working on some bigger business deals and agreements between Russia and the United States regarding minerals and resources. Now, the reason why that's important is because Trump is also speaking to, as you know, Vladimir Zelensky, Ukrainian president, about a minerals deal there as well, possibly worth $500 billion. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is really important coming up. It is 5:15, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. So the reason why that last soundbite is so important is Donald Trump talking about how he is working on some really big deals with Russia regarding minerals and resources. He also, as we know, has been talking to Ukraine. Now, the left will say that Donald Trump is cozying up to dictators. But here's what's really happening. Part of what Donald Trump is trying to do, remember people always say that, you know, he's playing, what is it, three-dimensional chess when everybody else is playing checkers. What Trump is trying to do is he's trying to become entangled with Russia financially through deals on the table where Vladimir Putin and Russia can make a ton of money by working with the United States. And so what that does is that gives him some leverage over them. Same deal with Ukraine. So if we've got deals that will help make Russia and Ukraine richer, well, then that means that if Russia starts acting up again, if Vladimir Putin starts acting up, then Trump has some financial leverage over Vladimir Putin and Russia. That's what he's trying to do. And so he can say, listen, you can do what you want, but we may have to pull out of our deals, our financial deals with you. And trust me, Donald Trump will say to Vladimir Putin, trust me, you want me as a friend and not as an enemy. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do. He also spoke about working with China, Xi Jinping, and also working on relationships with China as well. So from a foreign policy aspect, it does sound like Donald Trump very busy on the world stage. I love how the Europeans and, Germany, and they're all saying, we knew these talks would be a disaster. Look, they're already fighting. They did come away with some semblance of an agreement. Ukraine is saying that an hour after the agreement, Vladimir Putin bombed, I think it's a couple of hospitals. That's what Ukrainians and Zelensky are accusing Vladimir Putin of. I don't know what's true anymore. What I do know is that Zelensky is a liar. What I also know is Vladimir Putin is a liar. You can't trust either one of them. Maybe that should be our poll. KGB, so here's our current poll. Like and subscribe on YouTube, if you would. You can watch us anywhere. You can watch the radio show anywhere. Facebook, X, 997WTN.com. My favorite place for you to watch is on YouTube for a number of different reasons. They've got a great chat going on YouTube. They're chatting right now, as a matter of fact. It's its own culture over there in the chat on YouTube. And we're going to talk a little bit about that at 5:35, because I believe that at some point, either today or this week, Joan, it's going to be Joan Jones Appreciation Day. Over there.
Really?
We're going to talk about that also at 5:35. Right now, though, our poll, if you watch us on YouTube, you can take the Daily Dan poll. And right now, the poll is, do you believe that the Democrat Party will recover from the civil war, the infighting that is going on right now within the Democrat Party? I'm going to talk about that in a bigger segment in the 6 o'clock hour. And right now, what are people saying, KGB? Do people who have taken the Daily Dan poll, do they believe that the Democrat Party will able to, like a phoenix, rise from the ashes and reinvent itself?
Don't give him that much credit. But all in fairness, it's at 62% no, they will not recover, to 38% yes.
Okay, that's actually, I'm a little surprised. You know what another part of that question would be is, are you worried that they're going to do that? See, I think the Democrats, and I'm just going to just gloss over this real quickly in lieu of my bigger segment later on, but I think that what the Democrats need is a transformative figure, like Donald Trump was for the Republicans. And so a lot of people talking about Stephen A. Smith. And of course, I believe that Stephen A. Smith would be, he's of course of ESPN fame. I think that he would be a transformative figure for the Democrats. I believe that he would. But I don't know if it's worth it to a guy like Stephen A. Smith, who just signed, I think it's $100 million deal, I believe, with ESPN or something like that.
It's a massive contract. I'll look it
but
up.
He should know better. He can make that kind of money in government as well. They all do, right?
Yeah, they do.
That's just me being snarky.
It's a 5-year, $100 million deal.
Yeah, 5-year, $100 million contract.
Wow.
So I like maybe in 2 election cycles.
All right, so
yeah.
We'll talk about this more at a little bit later on in the show. But there does need to be someone transformative with either within the party or someone who is a Democrat but outside of the party who can come in like Donald Trump did for the conservatives. It is 5:20 on Nashville's Morning News. By the way, the Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. And